was beefing with him, he would go, "We everywhere, you never there." And it's because I was already in the arenas. So what would I be doing back in the nightclub?
Yeah.
What if I told you that one of hip-hop's biggest legends is now being accused of running a criminal empire complete with revenge plots, underage girls, and even a murder-for-hire attempt on 50 Cent? This isn't a rumor, ... It's part of a 157-page RICO lawsuit with names, dates, and disturbing receipts. And the most shocking part, the man exposing it all was right beside Fat Joe for 16 years. Buckle up, this might be the biggest scandal hip-hop has ever seen. What started as old-school rap beef is now unraveling into something much darker, deeper, and potentially criminal. Terrence Tay Dixon, once Fat Joe's long-standing hype man, has filed a shocking legal complaint that accuses the Bronx rapper of far more than lyrical shots or behind-the-scenes tension. According to Dixon, he witnessed Fat Joe isolating, grooming, and manipulating minors while working within his camp. These are not just wild allegations, they're part of a larger, disturbing RICO lawsuit suggesting Joe operated more like a mob boss than a music mogul. In the midst of this legal storm, Fat Joe, whose real name is Joseph Antonio Cartagena, is being linked to something even more sinister, an alleged plot to have 50 Cent assassinated at the height of their mid-2000s feud. And yes, this claim isn't coming from a tabloid, it's included in official legal filings. The twist: the person blowing the whistle isn't a stranger or distant associate. It's someone who stood beside Joe for over a decade on stage, someone who knew the inner workings of his crew. Dixon isn't holding back. He's now testifying that the drama between Joe and 50 wasn't just about pride or music. He claims there were real conversations, real coordination, and real intent to take 50 Cent out permanently. So where does 50 stand on all this? Interestingly, while he has acknowledged the lawsuit publicly, his reaction has been somewhat downplayed. Despite what's being alleged, a premeditated hit on his life, 50 insists it wasn't that serious. That has left fans scratching their heads. Why would someone minimize an attempted assassination? Is he trying to stay above the drama? Or is there more to the story that's still untold? The legal complaint is staggering in detail. It claims that in the winter of 2006 to 2007, while living in Miami, Fat Joe received word that 50 Cent was set to appear at an event in New York. According to the lawsuit, Joe didn't hesitate. He allegedly called for a hit, instructing his people to put a bag on 50's head, meaning, pay someone to take him out. The only reason it didn't happen: 50 Cent showed up with security so tight it was compared to a Navy SEAL operation. The alleged hitmen backed down, too afraid to make a move. Even more disturbing, Dixon claims Joe was visibly shaken by the failure, frustrated that the plan hadn't worked and deeply emotional over his inability to carry it out. He says Joe told people, outright, that he'd been trying to get rid of 50 for a long time, and was angry that it hadn't been done yet. That level of emotional involvement points not just to fantasy or rage, but to active planning and intent. It's worth noting that this isn't just about old beef anymore. What started as G-Unit versus Terror Squad might now fall under federal scrutiny. Thanks to the scope and nature of the allegations, fans are even drawing comparisons to the serious accusations against Diddy, and wondering if the music industry is finally being forced to face the darkness behind the glitter. The story is still unfolding. But if Dixon's testimony holds up, this may be one of the most explosive cases the hip-hop world has seen in years. When word got out that someone had allegedly been tracking 50 Cent's tour schedule in an effort to corner him at public events, speculation exploded. Many expected fireworks when the case surfaced, and fans braced for 50's reaction, certain he'd respond with his signature fire. But when the rapper finally broke his silence, his message caught everyone off guard. Instead of escalating the drama, 50 stood by Fat Joe, pushing back against the swirling accusations. He posted a photo of the two together and captioned it with a pointed statement: "These baseless accusations and claims are not credible. I'm sorry Joe has to endure the public scrutiny and damage to his reputation. This is a stick-up. I wrote this hook, I should have kept this one. It was a nod to his past lyrics, specifically Young Buck's Price on My Head, but more importantly, a sharp commentary on the situation itself." The response left fans and followers scratching their heads. Was it support? Sarcasm? A lyrical metaphor? One thing was clear: 50 wasn't rushing to condemn. Instead, he flipped the script, spotlighting the deeper game at play. and reminding the world that not every headline tells the full story. As the public tries to decode 50 Cent's response, wondering whether it was an honest show of support or a calculated, sarcastic move, opinions remain divided. One observer speculated that 50 might be playing a long game, suggesting that by publicly standing with Fat Joe now, he could be securing unshakable loyalty later. If he goes this route, they noted, Joe will ride for him, no question, because he knows it's real. But behind the swirling theories and online commentary lies something much darker. While some are focused on 50's reaction, the real weight of this controversy sits in the staggering allegations leveled by Tyrell Antoine Dixon in a newly filed 157-page federal complaint. Dixon claims that Fat Joe operated his business affairs in the shadows, likening the structure to that of a crime syndicate, adjusting layers of manipulation, fear, and control far beyond the alleged targeting of 50 Cent. What's most disturbing, though, is that the accusation involving 50 may not even be the most serious element in the complaint. Dixon alleges that Fat Joe was involved in deeply troubling behavior, including inappropriate relationships with underage girls. One claim asserts that Joe paid for cosmetic surgery, a Brazilian butt lift, for a girl who was just 15 years old at the time. The lawsuit begins with a trigger warning, signaling the severity of the content that follows. Among the most harrowing allegations are descriptions of Dixon being coerced into degrading and non-consensual acts. Under constant watch and threat, according to the filing, he was told he'd be stranded in foreign countries if he disobeyed, leaving him isolated and powerless. These claims, if proven, could mark a serious reckoning not just for the individuals named, but for the broader entertainment industry that often looks the other way. While lawsuits don't equate to guilt, they do open the door to long overdue scrutiny and raise important questions about power, silence, and accountability in the music world. Refused compliance. According to Dixon, he was coerced into more than 4,000 acts to maintain his standing within the enterprise. However, Dixon's account of Fat Joe's claimed connections with female victims who were not yet legal adults is undoubtedly the most aspect of the case. Dixon also claims he personally witnessed Fat engage in relations with victims who were 15 and 16, and then he lists 3 Jane Doe victims, including a 16-year-old Dominican from New York, who in exchange for cash, clothing, and payment of her cell phone bill, would perform certain acts on Fat Joe. The second alleged victim is described as a Caucasian female and not a United States citizen. According to Dixon, Fat Joe started having relations with Jane Doe when she was 15, and he says it happened after a concert overseas, and allegedly Fat Joe flew this girl to New York City and Miami, Florida, on multiple occasions. This next part is actually sickening. Dixon claims that due to Jane Doe's body being not fully formed, Fat Joe paid for Hera to get a Beeble. As for Jane Doe 3, that in Dixon's telling, the third alleged victim, referred to as Jane Doe 3, was a young Latina girl who met Fat Joe when she was just 15, nearing her 16th birthday. What followed, he claims, wasn't just a fleeting connection. Joe, according to the complaint, developed intense feelings for her. So much so that he allegedly considered walking away from his marriage. The lawsuit goes on to assert that Joe took full responsibility for her financial needs, footing her bills and integrating her into his jet-setting lifestyle. Dixon says she accompanied him on tour, traveling internationally, and was even placed in a Florida condo just a short distance from the home he shared with his wife, allegedly funded and arranged by Joe himself. According to Dixon, during the time Fat Joe was allegedly involved with Jane Doe 3, he was living just a few blocks from Dixon's home with his wife. Dixon says Fat Joe was in his late 30s at the time, and he submitted several photos of Jane Doe 3 posing with her high school friends, which he claims were taken around the same time Joe allegedly moved her across state lines. If proven, this timeline could carry serious weight. However, the current legal action against Fat Joe is not a criminal proceeding, it's a civil RICO case. Civil RICO is a legal tool that allows private individuals to sue under the Racketeer, Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, a law originally designed to prosecute organized crime syndicates like the mafia. To succeed in a civil RICO lawsuit, Dixon must go beyond simple accusations. He must demonstrate that there was an actual episode, coordinated group or structure, not just random or isolated illegal actions. Dixon is claiming just that. He alleges that Fat Joe operated a criminal network with the help of close associates. In his complaint, he identifies 2 alleged co-conspirators, Pete Pistol Pete Torres and Richard Rich Player Joper. according to Dixon, these individuals played key roles in a broader operation that involved coercion, exploitation, and ongoing misconduct. If his evidence holds up, this case could expand well beyond civil court and trigger more serious legal consequences. But for now, it's a high-stakes civil battle with potentially explosive implications. Dixon has described the individuals and entities named in his lawsuit as more than just bystanders. They were, in his words, key players in Fat Joe's alleged criminal operation. But for his case to hold legal weight, especially under the scope of RICO Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, he must do more than make accusations. He has to prove a pattern. Under RICO, it's not enough to point to a single illegal act. Dixon must show that the business was engaged in a consistent and ongoing pattern of racketeering behavior. That means demonstrating at least 2 specific criminal acts such as fraud, extortion, witness intimidation, or the trafficking of illegal substances, and proving that these weren't isolated events, but part of a larger coordinated effort carried out over time. RICO laws are powerful tools precisely because they frame misconduct not as standalone incidents, but as elements of an organized criminal enterprise. It's a legal approach designed to widen the lens to show structure, intent, and collaboration among co-conspirators. Even in civil cases, invoking RICO carries serious weight. It signals to investigators, judges, and even the public that this isn't just a personal dispute, it's potentially something far more systemic. Federal authorities, in particular, take notice when a longtime insider, like Dixon, steps forward with claims of first-hand knowledge. If he truly saw it all, as he alleges, then his testimony could become a central pillar of the case. And now, the big question becomes, can he back it all up with evidence strong enough to match the gravity of his words? One of the most pressing questions today is this: why did Terrence Todd Dixon stay silent for so long? If the claims he's now making are true, alleging a decade-long web of manipulation and abuse, how did it all stay hidden in plain sight? Dixon says fear kept him quiet. Fear for his safety. Fear for his future in the industry. According to him, Fat Joe kept him close not out of loyalty, but control, because Dixon allegedly knew too much. And when he tried to step away, he says, the threats came fast and hard. For 16 years, Dixon was more than just a hype man. He was part of the fabric of Joe's public image, standing behind him night after night, tours after tour. While his name might not have been known to fans, he was a constant presence in Joe's inner circle. But now, everything has changed. Dixon is stepping into the spotlight not to rap, but to accuse. He says that behind the music and fame, Fat Joe ruled with fear, using power to dominate and silence those around him. And now people are asking, is Dixon seeking justice, or settling a score? Is this a long overdue reckoning or a personal vendetta finally being aired? What pushed Dixon to the edge is still unfolding, but what's clear is that there wasn't just one breaking point, there were several, and each one is beginning to surface. According to Dixon, his falling out with Fat Joe wasn't sudden, it was the result of years of mistreatment. He claims he was underpaid, exploited, and eventually cut loose when he refused to continue going along with what he alleges were criminal activities. In a bold legal move, Dixon didn't just name Fat Joe in his lawsuit, he also pointed the finger at ROC Nation, claiming they played a key role in enabling Joe's alleged criminal enterprise. Dixon's lawsuit paints ROC Nation as more than just a bystander. He accuses the company of being a deliberate strategic partner, either fully aware or willfully ignoring the illicit operations he says were happening right in front of them. These alleged crimes include forced labor, financial manipulation, acts of intimidation, and even human trafficking. Dixon places himself at the center of it all, not as a participant, but as one of its victims. However, the timing of Dixon's claims has sparked a wave of skepticism, with federal investigators already circling the hip-hop world amid other high-profile scandals. Some observers wonder if Dixon is trying to capitalize on the moment, slipping his case into the spotlight for a potential payout. Fat Joe has kept a relatively low profile recently, while other industry giants are facing intense scrutiny, leading some to ask if this lawsuit is opportunistic, or if it's just the beginning of a much larger unraveling. And then there's the lawsuit itself, 157 pages long, filled with disturbing accusations and references to cryptic PDF files that allegedly contain further evidence. Despite the weight of the claims, 50 Cent has shrugged it all off, continuing to dismiss the lawsuit as if it's just background noise in the midst of a bigger game being played. 50 Cent's confidence in Fat Joe's innocence has left many scratching their heads, especially considering how aggressively he's gone after other figures in the industry, like Diddy and Jay-Z. With Diddy, 50 has been relentless, publicly accusing him of dark dealings and even launching a documentary to expose his alleged wrongdoings, despite the fact that no formal convictions have been made. So why the stark contrast in how he treats Fat Joe? While 50 has remained skeptical, even mocking, of others caught up in legal firestorms, he's drawn a protective line around Joe, suggesting that the rapper is being framed. This has raised questions. Is 50 seeing something the public doesn't? Or is this loyalty rooted in personal history, alliances, or strategic calculation? The contradiction is glaring. On one hand, he's positioning himself as hip-hop's truth-teller, dragging Diddy through the court of public opinion. On the other, he's downplaying serious accusations against Fat Joe, including those detailed in a sweeping RICO lawsuit. Whether this is chess, hypocrisy, or something deeper remains to be seen, but it certainly adds another layer of intrigue to an already tangled web. While no verdict has been reached yet, 50 Cent hasn't let up in his ongoing critique of Jay-Z's after the initial lawsuit against Diddy was thrown out. Just a few weeks back, 50 stirred the pot again, throwing shade at Jay by suggesting he may have had a hand in the mysterious explosion of Kid Cad's Koran accusation, rooted more in drama than evidence. Interestingly, despite public statements and swirling accusations, 50 Cent has distanced himself from the lawsuit involving Fat Joe. This, even though the accuser has pointed fingers at Jay-Z's ROC Nation as a potential collaborator in the alleged scheme. Some fans speculate that 50's silence isn't loyalty, it's strategy. One fan even likened his behavior to a calculated chess move, hinting that perhaps 50 is playing a long game with his own interests at the forefront, not Joe's defense. But the real mystery lingers. How much does 50 Cent truly know? If there's truth to the explosive claim that Fat Joe once put a price on 50's head, and if the rest of this lawsuit gains traction, we might only be seeing the opening chapter in what's shaping up to be a far-reaching legal saga. Now that whispers of RICO charges are growing louder, some insiders believe the feds could eventually set their sights on 50 himself,